All right, new chapter today,
Yes.
chapter 24, do not hide the lamp under a bushel. A little bit challenging, I think. Maybe not for everyone else, but I did have a little struggles with it.
Mhm.
But we try to get as much as we can out of it together. Who's doing the reading today? The writer? Are you okay
Yeah.
to read?
Yes, I'm perfectly fine. Yes.
Good.
Okay, so we begin. A lamp under a bushel. Why Jesus speaks in parables. Number one, no one lights a lamp to put it under a bushel. Rather, he puts it on a lamp stand so that it can illuminate all who are in the house. Matthew. Number two, there is no one who, after having lit a lamp, covers it with a vase, or puts it under a bed. He puts it on a lampstand so that those who enter can see its light, because there is nothing secret that may not be discovered, nor anything hidden that may not be known and made public. Luke. Number three, his disciples approached him and asked, "Why do you speak to them in parables?" And he answered them, "Because to you it has been given to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it has not been given. I speak to them in parables because seeing they do not see, and hearing they neither hear nor understand. In them the prophecies of Isaiah is fulfilled when he said, you will hear with your ears, but you will not understand. You will look with your eyes, but you will not see, because the hearts of this people have been deadened. Their ears have become deaf, and they have shut their eyes tight, lest their eyes see. Their ears hear, their hearts understand, and being converted, I may heal them. Matthew.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So let's try to define a few words over here. Do not hide your lamp under a bushel.
Mhm.
If you go to the dictionary and see the word bushel in the American English language, it's basically a measurement. It's a bucket of measurement. If you go to the dictionary again, it's primarily to measure grains, wheat, rice, whatever, right? Following the translation of the work of Haroldo Dutra Dias, with his extensive research when he made a translation of the gospel, not the gospel according to Spiritism, of the gospel, right? The second testament. He did extensive research, especially in language, the Aramaic and the Hebrew language. And he tells us that the bushel that Jews refer here is also, again, a measurement. It is a measurement. But usually it would be made of clay or a metal, and it was not to measure grains, but to measure oil. And olive oil was perhaps the most important thing, commodity at that time. It was used for everything. You see in the parable of the Good Samaritan was used to heal the wound of the one that was found injured on the road. It's used as food, a condiment. It's used as a preservative of goods. It's used, as in this case here, as the power, the fuel to light or to sustain the light of a lamp, right? It's the fuel, is the energy. And the way it would be used very often is, of course, an empty bushel. When it was time, let's say, to go to sleep and you want to turn off the lights or turn off the lamp at that time, you'd cover the lamp with the bushel. So you would suffocate the fire, no oxygenation, it would cover and keep it safe. With the risk of fire, the risk of anything could be eliminated. So Jesus, of course, is used a very common aspect of the life of the people to bring an example, to use as a metaphor, to use as a parable to bring a very important teachings. So keep in mind the aspect of the measurement, okay? And keep in mind the aspect of suffocating the light, putting it down, because that's what it's all about. And then, what is the lamp? We just read, and I remember I read a few days ago, and I remember because I read it, on our Monday's readings of the Living Spring, number 31, the title of that small reading is The Living Lamp, right? And the passage of the gospel that Emmanuel uses is exactly that. Not the people light a lamp and then put on the bushel. They put it on a lampstand so it may shine light on everyone in the house. And Emmanuel, speaking about the living lamp, he says something, let me read here. Let us reflect on the symbol of the lamp. It consumes power or fuel in order to give off light. Without the sacrifice of energy or oil, there is no light. For us, here, the material of our maintenance in potential, resource, life. Our existence is a living lamp. I think we want to keep that in mind as well, that our existence is a living lamp. Okay, so you can try to better understand the words of Jesus. As we know, the higher spirits are extremely objective, to the point, extremely frugal with words. So one word will have a very strong meaning. So if that is the case for the higher spirit, can you imagine to a perfect spirit? So each word of Jesus has a very powerful meaning, and it has to be explored in many different ways. So the word of lamp here, we can think of light, we can think of us providing or sharing what we have learned with others. But more important is we are a living lamp, or you should act as a living lamp. In philosophy, definition of things is associated directly with function. Okay, so for example, a chair. A chair is only a chair if there's people sitting on it, philosophically speaking, okay? If the chair is over there, and let's say that you hang your clothes on it, this chair is not a chair, this chair is a handle, is a hanger, using to hang things, okay? A flute is only a flute when it's being played, when it's producing music, right? So in the teachings of Emmanuel here, if you are a living lamp, we are only a living lamp when we are passing to others the very little that we have, the light that we can shine to illuminate the pathway of others. And it's something that you do to others and not to yourself. You don't need to shine a light on yourself. We don't do that. When you put up the light, is to illuminate others. Okay, so those two definitions, I think, is important for us to keep in mind when we continue the reading. And then you see that Matthew says, the way I imagine is remembers the words of Jesus. And when Matthew wrote his gospel, he says, he puts on a lampstand so that it can illuminate all who are in the house. So is it possible that Jesus mentioned this lesson different times, and one time Matthew remembered that, and because when you go to Luke says he puts on a lampstand so that those who enter can see the light. It's obvious that there is the light addressing two different groups of individuals. One is already in the house. That's what Marx tells us. And the other set of groups is one who enters. And this is meaningful when you continue reading and you go to the item 8. If you reach that today, you see the importance of that. But the light being up there, they are important to those who are already in the house, to maintain themselves illuminated, and for those who are seeking the light, who enters in the house, who perhaps in darkness sees a light from afar and moves towards that. Right? So there is two different group of individuals, of us. Okay, where do we belong? Each one of us decides for themselves. Okay, are we in the house, or we entering the house? Right? Another important word over here, and say, because there is nothing secret that may not be discovered, nor anything hidden that may not be known and made public. Discover requires effort, requires work, requires looking for it. It requires being attentive, paying attention. You noticed something here, and perhaps and then you explore that little bit thing and you discover things. So it's not a free giving, right? And just like Jesus, I imagine, here following God, does not put everything there for us, but provides us the instruments, the tools for us to discover using our intelligence, using our effort, using our free will, to discover those things that are not meant to be a secret, but are meant to be discovered, to be understood. And to understand things requires a process of moral intellectual evolution, progress. And I think that's very, very meaningful. But when you go to item 3, that the disciples asks, so why you talk to them in parables? Why do you use those metaphors? Why do you make it so hard for them to understand? What do you, in my opinion, not true, but what is things that you are hiding informations? And Jesus explained. Basically, we're going to read it here now, and I want to go ahead. Okay, so I just think that to break down the meaning of those words is important to us. Okay, what is the bushel? Again, something that is used to suffocate the light, to hide the light, but at the same time is an instrument of measurement. I believe our road says that it measures, when full, 35 liters of oil. So you'd measure how much to put on a lamp, how much you would now save, preserve, and again, oil was an extremely important commodity at that time. Any questions there?
Yes,
Go ahead.
you made a reference to Living Spring number 31.
81.
Oh, 81. Okay.
Yes.
You.
Let me confirm over here, make sure that I'm not lying. I have the book here with me.
No, I heard it as 31. That's why I read it.
You said 31 and yeah,
It's 81.
80.
81.
Thank you.
Yeah. The living lamp.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, shall we begin? 4?
Yes, please.
Okay, number 4. One may be surprised to hear Jesus say that a lamp should not be put under a bushel, when he himself continually hides the meaning of his words under veils of allegory that could not be understood by everyone. He explains himself to his disciples. I speak to them in parables because they are in no condition to understand certain things. They see, they hear, but they do not understand. Thus, it would be pointless to tell them everything for now. But I do tell you because it has been given to you to understand these mysteries. Jesus acted toward the people as one does toward children whose ideas are not yet developed. In this way, he points out the true meaning of the maxim, one must not put a lamp under a bushel, but upon a stand so that all who enter may see. This does not mean, however, that one should inappropriately reveal everything. Every teaching must be proportionate to the intelligence of those to whom it is directed, since they are persons whom a radiant light would blind without enlightening. The same thing happens with people in general and individuals in particular. Generations go through childhood, adolescence, and adulthood. Each thing must come in its time, for the seed planted out of season will not grow. However, what prudence orders to be momentarily hidden must be discovered sooner or later. Because after reaching a certain degree of development, people search for the living light by themselves. Darkness weighs on them. Since God has given them intelligence in order to understand and to guide them in the things of heaven and earth, they want their faith to be rational. And it is at this point that the lamp should not be put under a bushel, for without the light of reason, faith grows weak.
I think I can read 5 also.
Okay. Therefore, if it is prudent wisdom, providence does not reveal truths except gradually. It always reveals them to the degree that humankind measures enough to receive them. Providence holds them in reserve and not under a bushel. However, for the most part, the individuals who do possess them hide them from the common folk in order to control them. These are the ones who truly put the light under the bushel. That is why all religions have had their mysteries, whose questioning they have prescribed. However, whereas these religions lagged behind, science and intelligence have advanced and torn away the veil of mystery. Having entered adulthood, the common folk wanted to grasp the basis of things and therefore rejected from their faith what was contrary to observation. There can be no absolute mysteries, and Jesus is correct when he states that there is nothing secret that must not become known. Everything that is hidden will be revealed one day, and whatever people cannot yet comprehend on the earth will be subsequently revealed to them on more advanced worlds, and when they have become purified. Down on this world, they are still in the fog.
I think this item 4 is pretty much common sense for us, for anyone who raised children, for anyone who sat in a school bench and went through the levels of of academic progress, first grade, second grade, third grade. Then there is a plan. There is a process in teaching, right? I think parents knows that, teachers know that, any students knows that. Would divinity, would divine providence not have a plan in these teachings to us? Would they not have the understanding that we need to have some prerequisites before we can jump into something else? Meaning, in order to know fraction, you have to go through the first the elements of the arithmetic first, to add, subtract, multiply, divide, and then you can start playing with fraction. In order to learn calculus, you have to go trigonometry first, right? In order to know anything in any science, there is prerequisites required for you to move the next step. Therefore, first grade, you learn something that prepares you to the teachings of second grade, and therefore until you reach a level. Would that be any different in our evolutionary path? It would not. And would divine providence not have a plan for us, knowing us? Of course not. And Jesus, our teacher, the one who brings in his gospel all the required elements for our happiness, for our moral enlightenment, of course, have that plan. So he could, when he came in, he could teach some things to some, but not to all. The same way it's not the same way they would speak, let's say, to the doctors of law in the synagogues, as you would speak with the fishermen at the beach. The same way that you're not gonna teach, I don't know, sexuality to a 4 years old, to a 7 years old, to a 14 years old. That is, not only it would be pointless, as Kardec put here, but it's risky, it's dangerous. Put a, I don't know, put a 14 years old who is in high school and put them in a doctorate class, learning any matter, I don't know, astrophysics, biochemistry, and the guy will be completely lost. You create a dislike for it because it's to be so above their heads. Why am I going to deal with this? You perhaps will reject those subjects because they're completely unready to deal with such matters. So everything has to be appropriated at the right time. And if we know that and we make mistakes, Jesus would not make mistakes. So he would direct his teachers in accordance to the level of intellectual and moral progress of each individuals. But because you're not going to hide the light, he would provide those lessons in a way that it's there, but you need to discover it. You need to put your effort, you need to put your free will, your intelligence, the intelligence of your heart, in order to discover those things that is not really meant to be hidden, but it's there available for anyone who, upon evolved a little bit, will grasp those messages. There is a group of individuals, and I don't know if I totally agree with that, I think I do, that says that we do not invent anything. We discover things. I'm still on top of the wall on that one. And an example said, say, Edison did not discover the lamp, the light. He did not invent it, he discovered it. He discovered the way that you can maximize energy, transform into light, and the way to maximize that light to reach a greater space, right? So much so that when his associated asked him, why don't you give up? You have tried 1,000 times and you failed 1,000 times. His answer was, I never failed. I discovered 1,000 ways that it does not work. And eventually he discovered a way that it works. Okay, but it's just words. But what I'm trying to say here is that in nature, everything is there for us to figure out. Once you apply yourselves, when you dedicate it, put our free will or intelligence to figure something out, we will discover it. But everything's gonna come at the proper time. Edison was already in that path that led him to that position. Someone who was spent his whole life in a farmer trying to figure out how to produce more milk would unlikely would have the necessary tools to have that discovery that Edison did. Right? He was not there. But of course, everyone benefits from the discovery of one person. Everyone gains from it. Once that discovery is made, in general, everyone benefits from it. So that it's not hidden under bushes, therefore for us all. Even if it done with intention of personal profit or for vanity, whatever, we all benefit from it. So the teaching must be proportional to the intelligence of those to whom it's directed, since there are persons whom a radiant light would blind without enlightening. Again, to put someone who's not prepared to a lesson, once we waste your time, waste that person's time, and perhaps waste the opportunity of provide that person the same lesson in the future, because now this guy is completely disliking this thing. If you're not ready, you're not ready, you have to wait. Let me see here, just a second. After reaching a certain degree of the development, people search for the living light by themselves. Darkness weighs on them, since God has given them intelligence in order to understand and to guide them in the things of heaven and earth. And if you come from Jesus Christ's teachings, knock and it will open. Seek and you will find. Ask and it will be answered. It comes to a time that because of the law of progress, because of this magnetic force that's the law of progress that propels us to move towards perfecting ourselves, to move towards to God, to understand through God's creation, of course, eventually the darkness will wait on us. And then comes the effort, the discovery, intelligence, in order to understand and to guide us for things of heaven and earth, meaning moral and intellectual. Because the law is one and only, right? The natural laws, the laws of gravity, the laws in biochemistry, the laws of astrophysics, the moral laws are just one and only. Those are all laws of God. But for didactics, we divide them here in things of heaven and earth. And it becomes impossible to hide them. So when Kardec puts over here, However, for the most part, the individual who possesses them hide them from the common folk in order to control them. These are the ones who truly put the light under the bushel. They try, or they may try it, but it's impossible because, again, there is a law of progress. And since it's a law, and since it's a divine law, since it's a perfect law, it will prevail regardless of our ignorance, regardless of our selfishness to try to hold on to those lights. It will leak out somehow. And for those who are interested, those who use the intelligence, the free will, they will eventually conquer it. And unfortunately, Kardec puts over here that religion has tried to do that. However, whereas these religions lagged behind, science and intelligence has advanced and torn away the veil of mystery, have entered adulthood. The common folk wanted to grasp the basis of things and therefore rejected from their faith what was contrary to observation. Again, putting effort, trying, there is no way that anyone will be able to hide it from us. Using our intelligence, use the advancement of sciences, there will be a contradiction of what is being told us by the religious group and what observation science is demonstrated, is proving without a doubt what are the real facts. And when that happens, individuals who are free-minded, whose minds are not controlled by anything else, will walk away from the religions and follow science. And I think we see that happening today. We see that we are still paying a very heavy price for those individuals. The ones had some of the light and tried to hide it from us. And I say some, because if they really had the light, they would not hide it, but they had some of it. Let's see what else we got. Okay. I think I covered everything here. Any questions there?
Yeah, I heard a comment that I found it very interesting on the topic of Jesus speaking parables. That you know, when you watch a presentation, a lecture, and the presenter goes over the topic, and then in the middle of the lecture tells a personal story or a story that he experienced or he heard, people normally remember the story and don't remember much more of the presentation of the lecture. Which what stick with us is the cases, the stories, and that's and Jesus, knowing that, he knew that the parables would be easier to remember and to transmit from one generation to other. That's why he also chose to speak in parables. And I found it, yeah, it kind of makes sense, right? Because you really remember the cases. You know, when you watch Vivaldo giving a presentation, he tells 2 or 3 different stories in the middle of his presentation, and people always remember the stories, right? Mm-hmm. So I think you can relate that to the parable. And also when you talk about not hiding the truth, right? The truth will be revealed. I think what we are seeing nowadays in society, which we see truths being sold as real truth in opposition to one another on both sides of the spectrum, the political, the religious, the social, and you know, the law is of progress. So the real truth will prevail. Whatever is not real truth eventually will collapse, will be discovered, or this will be there in the open for everyone to know that it's not the real truth. But for us to get there, we have to go, grow, and investigate, right? When I was reading, these are the ones who truly put the light under a bush, that those who possess the truth hide from the common folk. You know, there is a lot of people that hide behind conspiracy theories nowadays, and that's why they think that the big brother is doing whoever they think the big brother is. And you know, all this studies of Spiritism just shows to us that you can hide, you can lie. What's the phrase? You can lie to one person all the time. You can lie to a group of people for some time. You can never lie to everybody all the time. So, you know, it will come out. The truth will prevail, even if it will take longer, even if we are delaying the progress of humanity because of our hard-headed convictions and trying to prevent humanity to progress. And we just have to look at history, right? Galileo was almost killed because he would say that Earth goes around the sun and not vice versa. So, you know, nowadays, people, nobody argues that, right? But, you know, there are still those that believe that the Earth is flat and things like that, right? So nowadays, which is, with science keeps proving other things, and people prefer to be blind than to see the truth. So again, all of us are eternal spirits. All of us will have to find the real truth eventually, and it's just a matter of time. And time is a different proposition for each one of us.
Yeah, in terms of the parables, all scriptures of, I dare to say a word that I like, all religious doctrines that seeks to enlighten us morally uses metaphor, use parable. You go back to the Egyptians, you go back to the Greeks with their mythology, in which every single symbol is representative of some of our human attributes, characters. You know, every story is telling about us. The Hindus, and if you go to the teachers in the books, is all made by cases, you know. And then there was this student who came to the master and asked, and the master gives a lesson, you know. And then there was this master who was washing his clothes by the river, and he saw a scorpion that was drowning, and he jumps in the water and saves the scorpions, and the scorpions bites him and puts the scorpion back in the land and continues to wash his clothes. And when he looks, the same scorpion, not very smart, falls in the water, is drowning again, and the master goes again and jumps in the water and saves the scorpion, and the scorpion bites him again. And the third time, same thing. And the student next to him asks, "Are you crazy?" The guy keeps biting you. The scorpion, what do you mean I'm crazy? It's a scorpion. That's what scorpions does. I am a Zen master. That's what I do. What's crazy about that? Right? It's a lesson there for us. Take it as much as you are able to. Right? We are, according to Emmanuel, living lamp. You take that as much as you can take out of that. Right? And that's the same thing in Hindu. All the Hindus teachers is using metaphors. Is there in the first Testament. The whole Genesis is a huge parable, it's a beautiful, significant parable, is a metaphor of everything. All the scriptures, no different from what Ron said, that in the middle of your teacher use it, it's the opposite way, it's in the beginning. That is, you give the parable, you give the metaphor, you tell the story, and you develop the teachings from that story. That is in mythology, that is in the Egyptians, that's in the First Testament, the Second Testament with Jesus, that's in Buddhism, that's in Hinduism, and all of them. The problem is when you think things literally. And that's why you have a problem with Genesis. God creates the universe in 6 days. What does it mean? And God creates first this and first that, and science proves that that's not the sequence. But the metaphor for those who can read between the lines, we understand the beauty of the lessons in there. And Jesus used the same technique that every good teacher uses. Jesus being the best of them all, of course, the perfect of them all. Okay.
Okay. Number 6. One might ask what advantage the common folk could have derived from this multitude of parables whose meaning remained hidden to them. It should be noted that Jesus did not express himself in parables except regarding certain abstract parts of his doctrine. But having made charity and humility toward one's neighbor the express condition for salvation, everything he said in this regard is perfectly clear, explicit, and unambiguous. And it had to be this way because it was the rule of conduct, a rule that everyone had to understand in order to observe. It was what was essential for the ignorant multitudes, to whom he limited himself to stating, "This is what you must do in order to gain the kingdom of heaven." Regarding the other parts, he revealed his thought only to his disciples. Since they were more advanced morally and intelligently, Jesus could initiate them into more abstract truths. Thus, he said, "To those who already have, even more will be given." Nonetheless, even with the disciples, he remained rescindent regarding many points, the complete knowledge of which was reserved for later times. These points were what gave way to such diverse interpretations until science on one hand and Spiritism on the other came to reveal the new laws of nature, thereby rendering their true meaning comprehensible.
I think you go to 7, please.
Okay. Spiritism has come to shed light on a multitude of abstract points. However, it does not shed it indiscriminately. The spirits proceed in their teachings with admirable prudence. Only successively and gradually have they broached the various subjects of the doctrine, and it is thus that the others will be revealed to the degree that the time comes for bringing them out of the darkness. If they have presented the doctrine completely at the start, it would have been accessible only to a small number. Moreover, it would have alarmed those who were not yet prepared, which would have harmed its spread. Thus, if the spirits have not yet said everything ostensibly, it is not because there are mysteries in the doctrine reserved only for the privileged, or because they have placed a lamp under a bushel, but because each thing must arrive at the appropriate time. The spirits allow each idea time to mature and spread before they present another, and for the events to prepare its purpose. See the last one. Acceptance. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. So I think if you have not understood anything on this chapter, let's say, perhaps I understood 25% what is in this chapter. And perhaps out of this 25% that I understood, I'm able to pass it to you 10% of it, right? Hopefully you get the 10% that I'm passing to you, or hopefully you get 100% and you're doing one reading. But if we get nothing out of it, if you scratching our heads about everything that we are reading over here, there's one thing that we must absolutely understand 100%. Throw everything away, but this you must keep and you must understand. It should still be noted that Jesus did not express himself in parables except regarding certain abstract parts of his doctrine, but having made charity and humility towards one's neighbors the express condition for salvation. Everything he said in regard is perfectly clear, explicit, and unambiguous. Forgive not 7 times by 7 times 7 for each one of the offenses, of course. Love your neighbors as you love yourself. Do to others as you'd like others to do in the same circumstances. There is no parable, there is no metaphor, there is no hidden message, there is no secret to be discovered in any one of these teachings. We can argue and we will try to figure teachings Christ, all his gospels, those in the Second Testament, and those one did not enter the Second Testament for another 1,000 years. Emmanuel says that for those who are trying, for those who are putting effort to understand that Second Testament, we are not able to do it until further reincarnations. That as much as you apply yourselves, there is a lot of things to learn here. There is the best that we can do is not be sufficient to fully understand this yet. And you have to continue trying, as many incarnations it takes. But the fundamental, the core, the absolutely everyone must understand and everyone is able to understand with any absolutely hidden message. Charity is clearly expressed. Benevolence, indulgence, forgiveness. And that, as they say over here, having made charity and humility towards one's neighbors the express condition for salvation. So I understand what Christ means by the hiding the lamp. No, eventually you will. But right now you have to understand charity. You have to understand with your greatest effort to minimize and eventually eliminate. I'm not going to use the word eliminate, but to minimize selfishness and pride, and to maximize your potential willingness of being charitable. There is no hidden messages here. It's absolutely clear to everyone. And Jesus Christ did not use any metaphor. He used many parables to exemplify it, but when he says the word, he says very clearly. Love God above all things. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. So you have to love 3 things: God, yourself, and your neighbor. And your neighbor is everyone else besides you and God, right? Or everything else besides you and God. Forgive, not 7, but 7 times 7. And then was complemented later for each one of the offenses, which means just forgive. Be indulgent with the difficulties of others. There is no parallel. There is no hidden message whatsoever. And all that so-called hidden messages are just tools to help us to apply the core of his teachings. Minimize your selfishness, minimize your pride until you get rid of it. And the way that you do that is practicing charity to the best of our ability consistently. Throw everything away. Keep this, we're good, because that is the express condition for salvation. And that's why Paulo of Tarso, given his beautiful thing that I cannot remember word by word, but no, I may have everything. I may have all the intelligence, but if I don't have love, I still have nothing. And charity is love in action. So there is no secret on that. Throw everything away, keep this, and you'll be good. And other things that require time, that required intellectual moral progress to understand, science come to reveal, and Spiritism comes to integrate science, philosophy, and the moral teachings of Christ in one package. So, of course, I'm biased to say, but I like to believe that everyone who's listened to this now would agree that the Spiritism is the greatest tool to help us to gain the true desire, the true will to not only understand Christ, but to apply his teachings in our lives. All right? And this is a comment that I wrote over here. We read, we study, not only read, we study. This book, the Spirit's book, continuously. We go from page 1 to the last page of the Spirit's book. I don't know how many times we've done it, and you're going to do it again soon. And this book, when it finishes, you're going to start from page 1 again. And for some, it's a waste of time. For some, it's redundancy. For us to understand this passage, this last paragraph over here, you understand they need to do it. As these individuals who are trying, applying ourselves, because you are here, because you are trying to understand and to apply those things. This book is a different book every time that you read it. The Spirit's book is a different book every time that you read it. Not because the words change, but because we change, we progress, we mature. We are able to note and understand things that we didn't even know there was in that same book before when you read 3, 4, 5 times before. I mean, Ron is doing the Spirit's book for us, and I'm sure that you say, "What? Did you read this before? I read this book 6 times. I never knew this thing was here." Is the book different? No, we are different. What is the difference? We are progressing. Our amplitude of vision, of understand, is augmented through doing this repetition. So for those who think that, oh my God, the Spiritism becomes boring, it's reading the same thing all the time, you're not reading the same thing all the time. Because every time that you read, if you are applying and trying, it'll be different. Okay, comments, questions?
I was discussing with a friend a passage of Genesis this week, and I went there and I read it, and I thought to myself, "Wow, never, I never noticed this. Where was this hidden?" Yeah, it was there. My ability to understand was not there, right? And the other time. So yeah, again, I think this again, as Kardec says here, right? Spiritism, the truth is being revealed slowly but surely, right? The spirits have not said yet everything ostensibly. And we see that when we study the books of André Luiz, when we study the books of Joana de Angelis, of Manuel Filomeno de Miranda, that they keep adding to what Spiritism has brought to us. But it's interesting that they keep adding. There's nothing that is being eliminated from what the gospel or what the Spirit's book brought to us. It's just we build upon what is already there. We learn, we evolve, we go a little deeper in some areas. I was thinking, one topic that is very popular that people love to discuss is sleep and dreams, right? And Chusara is doing the next Saturday lecture by the United States Spirits Federation is Jusara talking about decodifying sleep and dreams according to Spiritism, and you think, wow, I already studied this so many times, still have things to learn. Oh yes, there are so many more different things when we start studying that. So again, if we are open and we are curious, we go back and we learn more. If we I heard people saying, oh, I read the Spirit's book once and I have to look at other things. There is nothing more there for me. And then they'll go to a completely different directions. You can know a little of a lot of things, but you cannot deeply know one thing if you don't dedicate your time and study to it. But again, each one of us has its own, his or her own personal journey. But I find it interesting when people say that, the Spirit's book or the Gospel, oh, I read it and there's not much more that I can take from it. I need something else. You read, but you didn't understand. I think that's the conclusion.
Yeah. You said something very important I was going to mention, I actually forgot, and that brings the very important point that I find in study groups and the participation of everyone involved in a study. Somebody told you something about the Genesis. Somebody who had seen the same book from a different angle, who noticed something that there is a different light there that person perceived, and you went and you checked, and it enriched you, it helped you. The great value of study groups is exactly that. It's each one of us coming from a different background. Each one of us has accumulated some experiences in life. Each one of us will read the same paragraph and notice something different here. When you put all those experiences, all those analyses together, that makes a study group. That makes us so much better than if we'd done it by ourselves. I could read this book by myself, but if I don't go, as of course I did, and read somewhat other, a lot more smart and well-prepared people have written about this topic, what I could pass to you will be very limited. It's only my little experience. But when you go and you read or you listen to other individuals who have more experience or better prepared, I can bring a lot more things because I grasped it for them. And I'm sure that each one of us here has something to contribute to make everyone better. Everyone here has potential to be that living lamp that will enlighten all of us. So not only study the books, but study group, share what you have gained, so everyone becomes stronger in knowledge and understand of the topic. Okay, what time is it?
12:02.
Oh, no, do
You
we
have
have time?
Okay. Okay. Do not go to the Gentiles, number 8. Jesus sent out his 12, the disciples, after having given them the following instructions. Do not go to the Gentiles, and do not enter the cities of the Samaritans. Instead, go to the lost sheep of the house of Israel, and wherever you go, preach, saying that the kingdom of heaven is near. Matthew. In many circumstances, Jesus shows that his sights are not limited to the Jewish people, but that they encompass all humankind. Therefore, if he told his disciples not to go to the pagans, it was not that he disdained converting them, which would have been uncharitable, but because the Jews who believed in the oneness of God and awaited the Messiah had been prepared by the law of Moses and the prophets to receive his word. Among the pagans, where even the base was lacking, everything needed to be done, and the disciples were not yet sufficiently enlightened for such a weighty task. That is why he told them, go to the lost sheep of Israel. That is, go and sow on ground that has already been prepared, knowing that the conversion of the Gentiles will come in its own time. Later, in fact, the apostles will plant the cross right in the midst of paganism.
Thanks.
Okay.
So what does they say on the airplane?
Hmm.
If there is a need to put your mask, put the mask on you first,
Mhm.
and then you put the mask on the child. Right?
Yeah.
We read the book On the Way to the Light. And in the chapter of the people of Israel, Emmanuel says something to us here. In examining these remarkable people in their distant past, we can see that even though they had a great certainty about the existence of God, they were also very proud regarding their conception about life and truth. And then another paragraph. Well, actually, let me read the whole thing, it's very short. Ever mindful of the loftiness of their value, they never missed the opportunity to demonstrate their prideful spiritual aristocracy, and they kept themselves almost completely inaccessible to full communion with other races. Nonetheless, out of respect for the truth, we must realize that in a blatant paradox, ahead of other people, Israel has always thought fraternity, along with a magnificent and imperishable faith. Without country or homeland, these heroic people have been able to live in no social and political climes, exemplifying human solidarity in the best tradition of work. Its historic existence, however, is a pain-filled lessons for all the people of the world regarding the disastrous consequences of pride and exclusiveness. What are we talking about in this chapter? Do not hide the light. What is Emmanuel telling here about the Hebrews, the Israeli people over here? That they're exactly the problem that they created for themselves, was exactly that. Almost completely inaccessible to full communion with other races. So Jesus goes to the disciples and tell them, do not go to the Gentiles and do not enter the cities of the Samaritans. Instead, go to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. And wherever you go, preach saying the kingdom of heaven is near. Who are the Gentiles? Period. In a simple way, any non-Jewish. Period. Not practitioner of Judaism, Gentile. Okay. And why the Samaritans? Because Samaritans had a very different view of gods, and they did not follow the Moses laws. They have their own sect of laws, and they're not in very good terms with the other Jewish people because of different interpretation of things, right?
And actually, the main difference is that they didn't accept the temple in Jerusalem as the holy place for the Jewish people. They had their own temple.
Yeah, but yes, but that is based on different interpretations of many things, right? But more important here, it says preach saying that the kingdom of heaven is near. It's at your reach. It's there. You just have to, let's say, to extend your hand and get it. It's there for you. So therefore, what Jesus suggests to his disciples is there is a group of people here who have tremendous understand. One, very important, the understand of one and only God. Okay, they have tremendous work ethic, as Emmanuel put over here to us. Very hard work. Tremendous amount of solidarity and fraternity among themselves. And that's the problem, that it's among themselves. Historically speaking, okay, please do not say that I'm accusing the Jewish community of such a thing, which you say today that you see that it's not really the case. You go to the hospitals and things, and you see the tremendous amount of good work, but there is still some factions of Judaism that retain some kind of enclosed into themselves, but it's not all, absolutely not. I have extremely good examples and experiences of wonderful fraternal Jewish communities doing wonderful work out there. But historically, that was the problem, right? But as Emmanuel puts over here, it's in reach for them historically again, because they already have this very strong work ethic, hard work people, very much into studying and understanding, tremendous fraternity among themselves. To go to them first and from them spread it out is the step to go, because it's the one that is reachable. For them, the kingdom of heaven is reachable, is that it's near, is that just extend your hand, it's there for you. For the Gentiles or for the Samaritans, they still had to take a little bit harder. But if you see later on, some 30 years after the crucifixion, who he chooses to spread now his teachings, Paul of Tarsus, and tell Paul of Tarsus to go where? To the Gentiles. Now it's time. Now he spread it all over. Because the whole Roman Empire, which was basically the whole world at that time, and preach now. Following what I've spoken in the beginning, there is a sequence of events. Things needs to follow steps by steps. Go to the lost sheep of Israel, because they already had a lot in their bag already. And then spread out. Then you go to the others. You're not denying the others. You're not being exclusivist. We're not give preferential treatment. We are following the natural process. Same thing. You have to go to first grade first before you go into second grade. You have to know to learn simple adding and subtracting before you go into multiplying and division, and you need to follow that sequence of events or sequence of progress before you'll be able to learn things more complex like trigonometry, like calculus, or anything else. You have to go step by step. And at that time, when he spoke to the disciples, if the disciples were the one who Jesus stood, to whom I can speak more open because you are able to understand. To them, I have to speak in parables because they're not there yet. And then it goes to them. Now that you have this basis here, you go and speak to those who have a little bit on the bag already. Go to the lost sheep of Israel's. What it means, bring them home. They are lost. Get them here. But they already have most of the package. They're just kind of lost right now. They spread out, try to find the light. Go bring them home. And then when they are here, then you go to the Gentiles and go to everyone else. I think it's very important that you made sure and that the Kardec, there is no exclusivism, there is no preferential treatment, that is the appropriate time for each one to receive the message that they are ready to receive, to bring the message of Christ for individuals who had not come to the understand of one and only God would be basically impossible. Okay, comments, questions?
I know we need to discuss this further in Spiritism, but it's the next item, so
Yes.
let's wait.
Okay, number 10. These words may be applied to the followers and propagators of Spiritism, systematic disbelievers, obstinate scoffers, and self-centered adversaries are to them what the Gentiles were to the disciples. Thus, in the following, their example, they first seek to make converts among persons of goodwill, those who desire the light, in whom a fertile seed may be found, and whose numbers are great, without wasting their time on those who refuse to see or hear, and who, the more importance is attached to their conversion, are all the more obstinate out of pride. It is worth more to open the eyes of 100 blind persons who desire to see clearly than one person who takes pleasure in darkness, because doing so increases to a greater proportion the number of those who will support the cause. Leaving the others alone is not indifference, but good policy. Their time will come when they are persuaded by general opinion and when they hear the same thing constantly repeated around them. Then they will believe they have accepted the idea voluntarily and by themselves, and not due to the pressure of someone else. Furthermore, the same thing applies to ideas as applies to seeds. They cannot germinate before the right season and only in prepared soil. That is why it is better to wait for the propitious time and to first cultivate those that germinate, thus avoiding the others by pushing them too hard. In the time of Jesus, and as a consequence of the narrow-minded and materialistic ideas of those days, everything was circumscribed and localized. The house of Israel was a small nation. The Gentiles were small nations surrounding it. Today, ideas are universalized and spiritualized. The new light is not a privilege of any one nation. There are no barriers to it. It shines everywhere, and all humans are brothers and sisters. Moreover, the Gentiles are no longer a people, but an opinion that is found everywhere and over which the truth triumphs little by little, just as Christianity triumphant over paganism. They are no longer combated with weapons of war, but with the power of an idea.
Okay.
Welcome.
So again, there is a plan, right? Our school system has a plan, right? To get kids at a certain age, put them together in school, develop social skills first. Then from that, start teaching the ABCs, teach them how to count, and continue the pathway of progress. They'll learn more and more things until they reach high school, until they have to reach college, until they become professionals. Some will continue their education to doctorate, but there is a plan. Now, this plan takes into consideration two things: our effort, our free will. You can take the horse to the water, but you cannot make it drink. And time is God's greatest ally. Time will take care of things eventually. And it's indispensable to allow time to do its magics. Cannot put the horse ahead of the car. And Emmanuel says, time does not contribute to the things that it not work on. If you want to rush things, you only one. Go ahead. Chances are you're going to fail. Everything, and of course I'm taking here with our development as in Western societies. Sometimes I find a little bit unfair that you will neglect some other Eastern cultures out there, but let's use what we have. Everything starts with Abraham, comes to the idea of monotheism. Some thousand years later, the idea of the monotheism is strengthened among the Hebrews, the Israelite. Come Moses brings basically the first testament, and all the 600 something testaments, but basically the first 10 was the most important. They were basically universal today for every society, for every group of individuals. The 10 Commandments is basically imprinted in our DNA, basically by now as human beings. 2,000 years later, come a new paradox that does not in any way combat or goes against the first revelation, but strengthens it and complements it. And that the Second Testament, that's the gospel of Christ, right? I have not come to destroy the law, but reinforce it. And reinforce the true laws, the divine laws, and say, well, those things created by Moses, you don't need that anymore. But those are divine in nature, those are eternal. This one I'm going to strengthen. And those ones that are man-made, that was extremely important at that time, 2,000 years ago, we can do without now. And another 2,000 years later, comes Spiritism. That again, reinforce Abraham, reinforce Moses, and explain and to us what Christ has told us, that you are not able to understand them, reveal some of the lights of the teachings of Christ, breaks it down for us, and reveal things when our science, our intellectual ability was here for us to understand things of a more abstracted matter. Is Spiritism come after development of the electric light, after the development of the understanding of the theory of evolution. All those things was extremely important for spirituals to come in to make things for us to be able to grasp more abstracted teachings that spirituals come, reveals, and exemplify to us the existence of the perispirit, the concept of this ethereal body. Now it makes sense. And so for energies that spirituals explain to us without the development of science, as understand of forces that are invisible, but and yet extremely strong, would make no sense to us without them being explained first in science. The spirituals come at a time in which that we are now ready to uncover a little bit more things. And I say a little bit because a lot to be uncovered. Now, to whom spirituals come to? To everyone. In every single corners of this globe. If one time it was the small group of the 12 tribes of Israel with Abraham, and then expand a little bit more with Moses, and then Jesus come when there was a Roman Empire dominated the whole world, and the 4 words could go to the whole world. And still at that time, he says, let's keep it with the lost sheep of Israel. And then comes to Paul some 30 years later, so after his return, and advise Paul to now you go and spread to the Gentiles, to everyone, to which of course Paul had a very hard time to convince the rest of the disciples that now it's for everyone, it's not only for us. No, he really had to convince the others disciples that the message of Christ was universal in nature and was not only for that small group. And now comes Spiritism, receiving the messages from the spirits from all corners of this globe. Does not come from one individual, does not belong to one individual, and Kardec's clear to say is a doctrine of the spirits, and of the spirits from everywhere to everyone. Now, if you give any book, and give to a 7 years old to read, to a 10 years old to read, to a 14 years old to read, to an adult to read, to an adult who has some understanding the topic of that book, each one will grasp with the best of the intention as much as they can from that book. The understanding that the 7 years old and the 10 years old and the 14 years old will be completely different, and it's still the same book. Spiritism is the same way. It's for those who are willing to open that book to read it, for those who are ready to open that book and to read. Because again, you have to go to those prerequisites. You have to be one for one thing, free-minded. You have to be free from the atavism of the fear of the spirituality, of the fear of Satan or anything else. So if you're still fearful of Satan, you're not ready for spiritism. You're just not. Spiritism is gonna really mess you up. If you think that the Satan is out there, and if you don't do exactly what the priest or the pastor is saying, perhaps not ready. You have to be open-minded. You have to have the desire for knowledge. Because if you don't have any desire for knowledge, if you're just content with not knowing, I guess Spiritism is not ready. You are not ready for Spiritism. But it's there. And again, with the best of the intention, each one will grasp as much as each one is able to do. Each one of us are at a different patamar of more intellectual involvement, and each one of us will grasp as much. But with a good intention, with the best of the intention, one thing that we will grant it is that for the message of Christ, and Spiritism is nothing more than the revived Christianity in its simplicity, without any rituals, without any dogmas. It's unveiling everything that at one time was veiled, because we are ready. But each one of us who seeks and will find. Anyone of us who is knocking, and it will open, because Spiritism will open everything to us. No, everything for us at our stage. Okay. Perhaps when you go to a higher world, there's a lot of more things that is still veiled for us here, but it's open in those higher worlds. Okay, comment?
Yeah, I think when we talk about disseminating Spiritism, we have to be very attentive to this, right? Not to waste our times for those that are not interested or not prepared. That you start to those that have an opening to spiritualism and no fanaticism for their own religion, right? Because if for those it's not going to make any impact, and it's going to go to be an empty discussion, right? But for those that are open to spirituality, in a sense, that's where we should slowly plant the seeds, right? I know Wayne has been doing this for many years now, and I'm sure he has different experiences in this topic, and a lot of it brings us sometimes a lot of frustrations when we try to tell people some of what we believe it's true and this will be good for them, and they refuse to accept, they refuse to entertain, or they're not really interested, they're more focused on their daily life. So what we can do is continue. We're there, and plant the seeds, and I say that a lot for people that try to teach Spiritism to their children, right? The important thing is to plant the seeds and leave them there. One day when they need, they'll come.
Yeah, and that's time is up, but that's the importance of respect other people's beliefs, other people's level of understanding of things. Not push too hard. And one of the questions that everyone asks is, why is this not everywhere? Why Spiritism seems to be so timid in spreading its truth and going on the, going to TV and put things out there for everyone. It's here, it's available to anyone. Again, knock and it will open. Seek and you'll find. Those who are ready, they will seek and they will find. It's here. To impose on anyone, to force upon anyone, you just create animosity, and it has the risk of being counterproductive. All right,
Okay.
I think our time is up.
So next Sunday, the third Sunday of the month, we're going to study the Medium's book. Okay. And I think that's it. Carol?
Yes, John. And Elmo, thank you very much for hosting and presenting our lessons today. Infinite Creator and Divine Providence, we give thanks to be together again as brothers and sisters for our studies of the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 24. We invite the light with reason and our hearts to discover, to grow, and to evolve. This propels and guides us toward the natural laws, those being the moral qualities. There is spiritual progress, step by step, using intelligence and effort. Jesus spoke in parables to help individuals remember the deeper teachings. The truth will unfold and prevail, and humanity will progress at the appropriate time. The main gospel teachings are not actually veiled. They are not really hidden. Those being charity, humility, minimizing selfishness and pride. And of course, the three keys: benevolence, indulgence, and forgiveness. Let us invite the light and plant the seeds. We give thanks to the spiritual benefactors and the good spirits for guiding and inspiring us today. May we receive the love, light, and peace of Christ within us. And for our loved ones, our teachers, the directors, the counselors, the mediums, and workers, we pray for inner peace, and certainly now for world peace, and for those who are suffering in the physical and spiritual worlds. We pray for SGNY and for all Spiritist centers throughout the world, that they may grow, expand, prosper, and be protected. As we close, we humbly ask for safety and protection as we return to family, friends, loved ones, and coworkers. May we go forth now as a reminder, as beacons of light, of love, of peace, of service, and of charity. So be it.